Thank you for joining me for this oil painting time lapse where I paint the most ornate gown and fabric folds that I've ever painted in my whole entire life. I'm super late to posting this video because I actually finished this painting in April of last year. I created it for a fantasy themed masquerade ball where I was exhibiting some new paintings. The model for this piece is my friend Ivy, who actually made the gown I'm painting here entirely by herself. She's an amazingly skilled seamstress, and you can find her on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube under the handle thesewloartist, where she shares the beautiful historic garments that she creates herself. I can't even begin to wrap my head around sewing a complex gown like this, but I can try to paint it, oddly enough. I was really intimidated going into this because of the amount of detail involved. There's so many ruffles, tiny folds, like some big folds. It's basically just a lot of fabric folds. However, once I got into the flow of things, it was so much fun to just get lost in painting all those fabric details. I used liner brushes to paint almost the entire gown, even some of the larger fabric folds at some point or another had a tiny little liner brush going over them. There were just so many little gradients throughout the skirt that it required the precision of a detail brush. It was a lengthy, tedious process, but I enjoyed all of it. And here I'm recording on my phone for vertical form content. Follow my other socials for that, but the theme of this masquerade was spring court. So I wanted the background to be a dreamy spring garden and something that you would imagine reading about in a fantasy book. Lastly, I decided to slightly alter the color of the chase to look more cohesive with the background colors. For this, I used dioxazine purple diluted with walnut alkyd medium to glaze over the surface. You only need the tiniest amount of paint to make a big difference, and the layer you're painting on must be dry or you will mess up the whole thing. So I applied the glaze over the chase and altered the color towards purple while retaining the details of the layer underneath. And that is the final piece. There was another portrait I created for the exhibit of my friend Ginny, who was also part of the event with us, and I painted how I imagine the spring court manor from ACOTAR. The day of the masquerade, I was at the venue setting up the art wall, and then I met up with Ivy and Ginny to get ready. Ivy actually made all of our gowns, which are 18th century robe a la Princesse, and she did such an amazing job. Ginny made our beautiful fairy crowns, and I just loved all of us walking through the streets of Seattle in these huge 1700s gowns. We were actually part of the event as the Royal Fae Court, and we did promo work for the ball, so we sat up front watching all the performances, and it was just a really fun time. People wear amazing costumes to this event. It was so cool to see. Here's me and my husband breaking it down like it's 1785. And then here's me bringing shame upon my entire village. We have a toddler, okay? We don't get out much, so I got a little excited at my first party in like 2 years. Yeah, that was my experience at the Venice is Sinking Masquerade Ball. In other news, I also have a ton of other little paintings I've made over the past few years that I never shared on here. I'm thinking of making a video about that. If you guys are interested, let me know. Lately, I've also really enjoyed exploring more fantasy themes with my paintings, like this piece I created of Valaris from A Court of Mist and Fury, or at least how I envisioned it when I read the book. This painting ended up blowing up on TikTok, so I reached out to the licensing agency of the author, Sarah J. Maas, and 8 months later finally got licensed to sell prints. Those are now available in my shop for all of you who are also nostalgic and homesick for a place that we vividly hallucinated in our brains. I thought it was just me, but apparently not, because so many people requested prints of this, so I'm so glad I finally have those. I hope you enjoyed this painting time lapse. I'm wishing you a beautiful day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye everyone!